Hi guys, my name is Spencer. Welcome to Sphinx Reads. Today I will be doing the Positions book tag. This book tag is actually inspired by, I think, Ariana Grande's latest album, Positions, where for each of the songs in that album, there's a prompt that you have to answer. I'll have both the channel and the video for the original tag, as well as the person who tagged me, which is Steph from Coffee Over Apple. She is one of my newest favorite booktubers. Go check her out. Subscribe to her channel and check out her video. I will say I'm not the biggest fan of Ariana Grande. I liked a few of her songs back when she was fairly new, but I haven't really caught up with all of her latest music. I'm just not a very pop music person in general. Honestly, haven't really been interested in listening to the album, but you know what? Maybe I will after this. So the first song is Shut Up, and the prompt is a book you couldn't shut up about. Now, I've noticed this when people have like a question that they post on book Twitter, and for multiple things, I've found myself like commenting or like quote retweeting the book A Monster Calls. This is actually one of my favorite books of all time, obviously, because I keep recommending it to people. It is about this little boy who is coming to grips with the impending death of his mother. It talks about a monster that kind of comes in the night and tries to help him through this healing process. It is, I think, the very first book to actually make me physically cry, like shed tears, so highly recommend it if you want a good cry. The next song is 34 plus 35, and the prompt is a book that you stayed up to finish. Obviously, being kind of a bookworm, I've read a lot of books late into the night, but one that I particularly remember that I was just like trying to get through, like even though it was really late, I think I stayed up until 2:30 a.m. But that is the fifth book in the Land of Story series, An Author's Odyssey. The Land of Story series is a middle grade fantasy series where basically it's very similar to Once Upon a Time, where we have our main characters who are twins, Alex and Connor Bailey, and they discover that their grandmother is the fairy godmother, and they travel through a fairy tale storybook into the Land of Stories, which is actually the fairy tale world where pretty much all the fairy tales are kind of connected with each other. I remember particularly liking the fifth book because it has such a strong emphasis on writing. Like, one of our main characters is a writer and he tries to bring his stories to life, and I just absolutely loved this book in the series. The next song is Motive, and the prompt is a book that left you questioning everything. I think for the most part this should be a nonfiction book, but I'm still in the process of trying to read more nonfiction. But one that I really loved, which is actually a very recent read for me, and I will talk about more in a future video, it's actually not nonfiction, and that is Fahrenheit 451 by Ray Bradbury. This is actually a classic, like a modern classic, I think, and it is about this guy named Montag who is a fireman, but this is kind of in the future where firemen are actually burning books instead of putting out fires. And basically the whole theme of the book is about censorship, like what will happen to the world if information was controlled and people just decided to pretty much remove all the books in the world. And this book was really kind of horrifying and really thought-provoking, that even after I read this, I just kind of saw different parallels in the present time where people kind of try to control what is being presented, what is being shared online, and things like that. So really thought-provoking read. Sorry, the lighting kind of changed because it is getting kind of dark and I had to turn on a light. The next song in the album is Just Like Magic, and the prompt is a book with all of your favorite tropes. For this one, I picked The House in the Cerulean Sea. You can go check out my reading vlog for that. I'll have it linked in the cards as well as in the description. One of my favorite tropes is the found family trope, and I really enjoyed that aspect of this book. I also, even though I'm not a romance reader, I like a little dash of romance and like really heartwarming stories, and I love that about this as well. This isn't my favorite book in the world, but it definitely has certain elements that pulled me in, that made me appreciate it, so that's my answer for that prompt. The next song is Off the Table, and the prompt is a book that raised your standards. For this one, I actually picked two books, and that is Wondersmith by Jessica Townsend, which is the second book in the Nevermore series, and The Name of the Wind by Patrick Rothfuss. Wondersmith, or the Nevermore series, is a middle grade fantasy. It is about this girl named Morgan who is whisked away into the land called Nevermore. And kind of the whole point of the story is that she is trying to learn sort of her knack is like a magical power, but this particular knack is actually very dangerous. It is the power of one of the most evil people in this world. Wondersmith actually also has the found family trope, and I love that about this, but in general, this book really raised my standards in terms of middle grade fantasy. Like for example, I'm reading Keeper of the Lost Cities right now, and I can't help but compare the Keeper of the Lost Cities series with the Nevermore series. For The Name of the Wind, this is actually an adult high fantasy where we follow our main character Kavoth, and pretty much Kavoth just kind of tells the story of his life and kind of how he tries to avenge his family and friends who were killed by a group of Fae. Patrick Rothfuss's writing kind of just raised like my entire standard of writing, and I personally have yet to read an author who writes as well as Patrick Rothfuss. I am currently reading Brandon Sanderson books during this year, and even though I love Brandon Sanders stories, his writing doesn't really compare to Patrick Rothfuss in my opinion. So this is an author that's going to be pretty hard to beat. The next song is 6:30, and the prompt is a problematic book that you'd love anyway. And for this one I picked The Horse and His Boy, which is the third book chronologically in the Chronicles of Narnia by C.S. Lewis. The reason that this book is kind of problematic is because, so not a lot of people know that in the Chronicles of Narnia, Narnia is actually just one country surrounded by many different countries in this entire world. And one of the countries in this world is Tashbane or Tashban. People who live there are kind of described and portrayed as kind of Middle Eastern looking. The way that they're being portrayed is kind of that they're of a lesser religion. They worship a different god called Tash, and they're basically kind of pirates. They hoard resources, they steal from people, and so obviously it's kind of a problematic book. Though some of our characters who are from Tashban, they're some of our heroes. I love Aravis and Lazareline, who play pretty crucial roles in this story. In general, just the portrayal of kind of Middle Eastern looking people is just really negative. But that aside, this story is actually one of my favorites in the Chronicles of Narnia. That probably sounds really bad, but I loved the story of this book. It's kind of hard to explain. So basically, this white boy, Shasta, who is a Narnian, is raised by people who are from Calormen. Have I been saying Tashband this whole time? I meant Calormen. His adoptive father is kind of an evil man who abuses him. Oh no, this is a problematic book. One time Shasta overhears that his adoptive father is planning to sell him to this merchant. He runs away with the merchant's horse, who actually turns out to be a Narnian horse who can talk. So they run away and try to escape into Narnia. Now it sounds really bad that I like this book, but I really love this book. This is also a standalone. I mean, kind of, if you are familiar with the story of The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, which has been such a popular movie / modern classic, then that's all you pretty much need to know to read this book. You can read it as a standalone, but obviously if you think this book is too problematic, then you obviously don't have to read it. The next song is Safetynet, and the prompt is a book you immediately knew was a 5-star read. Now this prompt was actually harder than I thought, because I usually predict really poorly. I often judge books based on covers. And while some of them have not disappointed, some of them have disappointed. I think the best example would be The House in the Cerulean Sea, which I was sure was going to be a 5-star read, but it ended up being kind of a low 4-star read for me. But eventually I did find on my Goodreads list a book that's in a way a cheat, because I read this way back in 5th grade when I didn't really use Goodreads or do star ratings. I actually read a copy of this book that was owned by a friend of mine. This was back when I didn't really own a lot of books physically, and so me and my friends would bring the books that we had to school, and we kind of trade books and read at school. But the book that I picked is The Secret of Moon Castle by Enid Blyton. I just recently discovered that this is actually part of a companion series, and I am really interested to read the rest of it. I haven't read this story for a while, but I just remember seeing the cover and knowing that I was absolutely gonna love this story because it looked like a really interesting middle grade mystery, and I ended up really loving it. The next song is My Hair, and the prompt is a well-known author whose work you haven't touched but are interested in. Now, one of my main long-term goals for reading and also for this channel is to pretty much catch up on all the popular books that I kind of missed out on, because I pretty much missed out on all popular books. Like, I've never read the Hunger Games or Divergent series or Immortal Instruments or Twilight. I guess a newer well-known author that I am interested in reading would be V.E. Schwab. I just heard a lot of good things about her books. I personally probably wouldn't have added her books on my TBR were it not for the amount of hype that she's been getting in the book community. So V.E. Schwab is my answer for that. The next song is called Nasty, and the prompt is a new release you can't wait to read. That'll have to be You've Reached Sam by Dustin Tao. Now I don't know if by the time this video is up, if that book has already been released. So I guess it's not a new release, but an anticipated release. But just look at the cover, it's so gorgeous. And the other thing is, I understand that it is inspired by the film Your Name, which, if you've seen Your Name, it has a lot of feels. And I just have a really good feeling, or bad feeling, depending on how you look at it, that this book is the type of book that is gonna make me like bawl my eyes out. So I'm really excited for that. The next song is West Side, and the question or the prompt is your favorite series. So pretty much all the series that I've completed, I loved. But right now, honestly, I think my favorite series will have to be the Mastermind series, which is a middle grade, I want to say sci-fi. It's more like of an adventure thriller with a little bit of sci-fi in it. It's about this group of kids who live in this kind of sort of perfect town in New Mexico that's isolated from all the other cities. And when one of their friends is sent away because of an incident that happens to our main character, they start to realize that things may not be as they seem in this town. I just love this series so much, and I'll probably be talking about it more in future videos even. The next song is Love Language, and the prompt is a comfort book you keep returning to. That will have to be The Boy, the Mole, the Fox, and the Horse by Charles Mackesy. I talked about this before, but I've read this book 3 times last year. Like pretty much whenever I got stressed, I just flipped the book open and read a few pages and put it away, and then when I get stressed again, I read a few pages, put it away again. It's a really short book, but it's really comforting and affirming and just full of good vibes, you know, just full of good and peaceful vibes. The next song is Positions, and the prompt is a book that subverted a cliche. For this one, I'll have to pick Sugar and Spite by Gail de Villanueva. I actually read a digital arc of this, and I really enjoy this story. So this is a middle grade fantasy, okay, kind of like magical realism. And the kind of cliche that this book has is the like bullies or like enemies to best friends trope. So basically the whole story is about our main character has a sort of bully, and she's getting tired of this bully because this bully is really rich and our main character is kind of sort of poor. And our main character's grandfather is an albulario, which in the Philippines, okay, this book is set in the Philippines, I forgot to mention that part, but the main character's grandfather is an albulario, which is kind of a potions doctor, and she creates this love potion that her grandfather forbid her to make, uses it on her bully, and they become best friends, but like fake best friends, and things kind of go downhill from there. This book is so heartwarming, and it touched on a lot of themes, especially relevant to the Philippines, I think, that I really appreciated. If I'm not mistaken, the release of this book is on April of this year, so by the time this video is up, the release date is pretty near, so make sure to keep your eyes out for that one. The next song is Obvious, and the prompt is a book you loved from a genre you don't normally read. And obviously, genre that I don't normally read will have to be romance, but I have read Eden Brook by Julian Donaldson. This is a Regency romance, and it is just a really cute, fun, uplifting story. It also has a little bit of a thriller vibe to it because our main character has to go through so much. Highly recommend you check this out if you're looking for a Regency period romance. Finally, the last song of this book tag. I'm saying that as if I'm relieved because I've been pausing this video on and off because of so much noise in our neighborhood. It's crazy. I think you can still hear a piano in the background. But the song is POV, and the prompt is a book you'd love to see told from a different point of view. And boy, do I have an answer for you. Okay, I loved Percy Jackson series. I'm not the biggest fan of it, but I appreciate it. I didn't like the first 3 books, but the last 2 books I loved a lot. And you can guess what made that turning point. My boy Nico D'Angelo. I would love a dedicated series for Nico D'Angelo, even if it's just a retelling of Percy Jackson from his perspective. Like, what was he and his sister up to before they appeared in the Titan's Curse? I want to know. I just would love a story dedicated to Nico. He is probably one of my favorite my favorite character in the Percy Jackson series. But that is it for the positions book tag. This is kind of fun because I haven't really done a lot of book tags before. Make sure to tag me on Twitter if you do want to tag me in any book tags in the future. Again, make sure to subscribe to the original creator of this tag as well as Steph from Coffee Over Apples and check out their videos, link in the description below.
And like an idiot, I totally forgot to tag people for this book tag, so I am tagging my friends Hugo Lappa from Scientist Reading World, Moon from Moonlight Scrolls, and Charm from Charm in Wonderland. If you do not subscribe to these people by the end of today, you will find a mushed up banana in your shoe tomorrow.
Let me know in the comments any books that you would answer for any of the prompts or the songs that were listed. Be sure to leave this video a like if you like this video, and please forget to subscribe so that you can do it later, and have a great day.